Hello everybody, welcome to the Am IT YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dan. As always, I am the IT Geek. And as of the first episode, I am joined by Simon Lee. Hi Simon.
Hi Shabazz, how are you?
Not bad pal, not bad. Are you all right?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good. Well, it was a short and sweet episode one, just introducing introducing the concept. So I'm hoping we can delve a bit more into this episode. So as everybody knows, it's me, myself, Shabazz Dar, Simon, Simon, just again, for people who might have missed episode one, do you want to give a quick intro to yourself again?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Simon. I'm on Twitter at Smoon_Lee. I'm blogging at hypervlab.co.uk. Predominantly, the majority of it was based around on-premise Hyper-V stuff, hence the domain. But I'm now wanting to branch out into some cloud stuff. So was chatting with Shabazz and saw Richard and Gregor do their Kubernetes zero to hero and thought, why don't we try the same thing for WVD?
Exactly. And as with episode one, Simon's links, blog, all his social will be in the description. So please go check him out. We're using the hashtag WVD zero to hero for this whole series. So please do hashtag it if you're watching, or if you share the video, if you like it. Obviously, give us a comment, let us know what you think, give us a thumbs up. Before I get started, I just want to quickly give a big thank you to our sponsor, PolicyPak. Just want to do a quick little bit about who PolicyPak are, and then we'll get cracking on with the episode.
So a massive thank you to our sponsor for this video series, PolicyPak. PolicyPak is a modern desktop management platform for the anywhere workforce. PolicyPak provides a powerful policy creation, management and deployment framework that extends the policy management, security, automation and reporting capabilities found within Windows Active Directory, Unified Endpoint Management Solutions, MDM providers, virtualization platforms and cloud services. PolicyPak comes with packs, each with its own set of customizable policies that enables IT and teams to solve today's most significant desktop management challenges like remote work, Windows 10 management, GPO sprawl, ransomware, group policy management and more. PolicyPak lowers IT costs, increases security, improves compliance, reduces GPOs and puts the IT admin back in charge. PolicyPak has hundreds of customers, over 1 million deployed seats and has an incorporated 5,000 recognised company and a G2 crowd high performer. For more information, visit www.policypak.com or you can follow them on Twitter at PolicyPak. Of course, as normal, all their links will be in the description of the video.
Again, thank you to PolicyPak for sponsoring this video. So let's get cracking with episode 2. So this episode is going to be, again, it's a bit of a theoretical episode. We're not going to be getting our hands quite dirty yet, Simon.
Okay.
But what is WVD? What is Windows Virtual Desktop, essentially, is what I want to talk about. So we're going to do a bit of a WVD overview. So we're going to be from a high level, talking about what it is. Look at some of the key capabilities, so you can understand maybe what its key attributes are. Look at some of the requirements of WVD. So before we actually provision anything or start to work with it, what do we need to do before we even get there? And then we'll have a look at some supported virtual machine OSs. So it's not just about Windows 10, it does support other operating systems. And again, there's a specific version of Windows 10 and the operating systems that you need as well. So we will look into that. So I want to quickly get into a bit of an overview of what WVD is. So what is it? Essentially, it's Microsoft hosted VDI. So, we think of other VDI platforms like Citrix and VMware. It's essentially like those, but it's hosted in Microsoft Cloud. So Azure for this, in this instance, we've got Microsoft Cloud, which is Azure. It's multi-session Windows 10 deployment is one of its main sort of features. It does obviously support other operating systems, which we'll get into later on in this episode. But this is one of its key key areas and key selling points, that it's the only, please make note of that, the only multi-session Windows 10. So Citrix doesn't support, without WVD, Citrix doesn't support multi-session Windows 10, and either does VMware. They do integrate with WVD though. That's out of the scope of this. But if you want to look into a bit further into that, there are some integrations now with Citrix and VMware.
Okay.
Application virtualization as well. So again, similar to other VDI sort of suppose services, you can virtualize applications with it and publish them. And WVD is no different. And there's an episode that we've got dedicated to application deployment, so we'll be looking at that. And finally, reduce management. Now, this isn't a feature or a service as such, but because it's hosted in Microsoft, it takes away a lot of the management overhead that you as the admin would have to do. So if you think about traditional sort of VDI on-premises, you have to integrate the web access. So the web access service within Windows Virtual Desktop lets you essentially access the virtual desktops, the actual session hosts, and the remote apps through like a HTML5 compatible web browser. And it's all authenticated with MFA and Azure Active Directory. You don't have to manage that though. That's all managed by, the actual web access is all managed by Microsoft. The gateway, think about it like the gateway service. Again, traditionally that's the remote connection gateway service that connects your remote users into Windows Virtual Desktop and the apps and everything like that. And it connects it over the internet. You don't have to worry about that gateway. It's controlled by Microsoft, so you don't see it. So again, less management. Connection broker is another one. I'm probably saying a lot of words that are quite familiar to you, you know, if you, especially if you've got an on-premises background. So the connection broker service manages the user connections to the virtual desktops. So if you've got any stale sessions that are disconnected, you know, that's what manages it. But again, you have no access to the connection broker with WVD. You don't have to manage it. The diagnostics, you know, your remote desktop diagnostics, an event-based aggregator that kind of marks each user and the administrative actions, that manageability is all taken away by Microsoft. So again, it reduces the amount of management that you as the admin has to do. So yeah, again, it's just another sort of plus to having it hosted with Microsoft.
Sure. Okay. So I have two questions at this stage. The first would be, if you were coming up to do like an on-premise RDS refresh, costing wise, would it be cheaper? I don't think it's the right word, but would it be better to look at moving to a WVD scenario or to refresh your on-premise with, say, a 2019 deployment?
It's a really good question, mate. What you've got to think about when it comes to that's a commercial question, essentially, what you're asking. So when it comes to commercials, the way I look at it is, if you're going to do a refresh, you're not just refreshing the service, you're refreshing the hardware as well. Yeah. Now, if you're going to, hardware investment is upfront. It's normally CapEx. And the whole sort of, especially when you think of RDS, you've got the RDS CALs, and you've got a lot of time. So that's you've got CALs, hardware, and then you've got a lot of the admin overhead of having to reconfigure everything, probably do another image, re-secure it all, change firewall rules. There's so much overhead involved. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to sound like a right consultant here. It depends, essentially. If you've got a small team, I would say yes, going to WVD, or especially a hosted VDI, is definitely a good way forward, because you're moving to more of a capex commercial model. Sorry, OPEX model. So you're doing like a monthly subscription, essentially. Mm-hmm. And again, just like that last point I made, it takes away a lot of the management. So you don't have to worry about all the firewall rules, the security, as far as the physical security goes on about. Yeah. So you obviously have to worry about certain security aspects, which again we'll be going into later on in the series. But there's the physical security access is kind of taken away. And again, it's less management. So you're reducing your cost with the amount of time you manage the service as well. So there's again, it all depends on what your company or organization's roadmap is like. There's a huge argument for it in favor of WVD replacing RDS. And for me, it's that piece of the hardware refresh is the biggest piece for me. not having to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds up front. You can spread that over many years doing a sort of OPEX model with Windows Virtual Desktop. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's really helpful. The second question I've got is, if I'm still in an on-premise environment, can it play in a hybrid scenario, or does it all have to be Azure-based?
No, so it has. So I actually will be answering that in the next slide, but I'll answer it now for you, mate. Yeah, it has on-premises integration.
Cool.
So if you think of it as a second site. Okay, so your Azure tenancy is a second site essentially. And if you have multiple offices, how do you connect those offices normally? That's my question to you. How do you normally connect to offices?
Site VPN.
There you go, bingo. And this is no different. You'd essentially do a site-to-site VPN, or depending again on your organizational needs, you could do an express route, which is obviously a dedicated VPN, more bandwidth. Again, out of the scope of this session, but yeah, you could essentially do a site-to-site IPsec VPN from on-premises to Azure, and that basically bridges those two sites, so to speak, those two logical sites. So you can integrate, if you've got Active Directory on premises, applications, anything like that, you can fully integrate them with WVD, and that's quite a common scenario. If I'm honest with you, I've done. Again, it does bring me on nicely, mate, to my next slide. So some of the WVD capabilities essentially. So it's highly secure, obviously being hosted in Microsoft data centers. The physical security is going to be like Fort Knox. And again, with it being hosted in the cloud, you get that high availability as well, and the highly scalability as well. With scalability, you have some control over that with availability sets and being able to automate the provisioning of session hosts, depending on the usage. We're not going to quite delve into that deep with this Zero to Hero series, but again, it might be something that one of our viewers wants to see, and then we can look at that at the time.
Sure.
Use your existing subscription license as well. If you think about, a lot more, I'd have to think hard about the last customer that came on that had just Exchange on premises without any sort of hybrid, or a lot of companies, most organizations that I've dealt with in the last year at least, have some sort of presence in Microsoft 365, so they will have some sort of licensing, and with the licenses again, you need a certain specific subscription. So I think the first subscription that supports it is, so again, keyword is Microsoft 365, not Office 365. Microsoft 365 Business Premium comes with WVD, and then obviously you've got the enterprise licenses of E3 and E5. Again, Microsoft 365, E3, E5. You can get the Windows license on Windows 10 license as a subscription on its own as well. But if you've got other services, it kind of makes sense to package it all together. Again, you might be using Intune already, you might be using Exchange Online. So essentially, you can use existing subscription licenses. So again, going back to that commercial discussion we had a few minutes ago, it's good from that aspect because you can save a bit of money.
Yeah.
And this is just to answer again, to carry on with the question that you asked, on-premises and public cloud integration. So it's not just your on-premises you can integrate with AWS. The big buzzword at the moment is multi-cloud. If I had a penny, I haven't heard multi-cloud recently. I reckon I'd have a couple of quid easy. But sorry for those overseas viewers, a quid is a pound. Using a bit of slang there. But yeah, so public cloud integration, you could integrate it with, again, AWS through the same methods, or even Google Cloud, just a site-to-site VPN. Yeah. So if you've got an organization, larger organization that's multi-cloud, has services in AWS, Microsoft, Google, whatever, then it can integrate with those as well.
Okay, cool.
And then one thing as well is one of the bigger things about it is there are different type of host pools you can provision, so pooled or personal desktops. So from a high level, again, I'll keep it high level because when we go into the host pools, I will go into more detail around this.
Sure.
But a pooled host pool is essentially a shared host pool. So it's where you will have, I'm going to use a round number, say 10 session hosts. A session host is a VM essentially. So you'll have 10 session hosts within your host pool, and say you have 100 users, those 100 users will almost like round robin connect to those, will share the resources. So it could be that you never connected to the same session hosts every day. You could be connected to different ones.
So that's like traditional RDS style then that you might have at the moment from an on-premise perspective.
Exactly, but again, the difference is if you think about RDS, it's always been server OS. This is Windows 10 multi-session, which is
okay.
So that's what makes it better. It's multi-session Windows 10. And again, what we've got to be careful is we use the right operating system. I'll tell you a quick story. One of my first deployments that I did WVD, when I was creating the image, I used the wrong OS to create my image. So it wasn't, again, there's a couple of different OSs, and we'll go into that shortly, but you've got to make sure you use the right OS because not all operating systems support multi-session. So yeah, and just to go back to what a pooled resource is, there are different load balancing algorithms as well. Again, I'm not going to get too much into detail now, but there are different load balancing algorithms which we'll talk about more when we go into the host pool episode later on. Personal desktops are exactly what they are. So there are, again, if you have 10 session hosts within a host pool, a user will be assigned a session host. So you'll have 10 users essentially, and they will have their own personal desktop, which they connect to each time, and you can assign a user to a specific host, session host. And again, we will do that when we go into the session host pool episode. We will provision both a pool and a personal, so I can show you how that goes. Okay, so far, mate?
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Excellent. Anything, mate, obviously just interrupt me and ask away. So breadth first or depth first, these are the two load balancing algorithms I'm just going to touch on in this episode, not go into too much detail. But these are the two load balancing algorithms you can have for your host pools. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail because I'll ruin episode 7. So I'll just leave it at breadth first or depth first of the two load balancing algorithms. And again, they've got different attributes. Again, different use cases as well, but we'll go into more detail around that. So, some requirements, like any cloud service, you have some prereqs you have to meet before you can start to deploy WVD, and this is no different. And as your subscription, bit of a no-brainer, I suppose, but this is zero to hero, so we need to make sure we cover everything. You do need a subscription, so that could be pay-as-you-go subscription where you just pay, you pay from a credit card, or it could be like a CSP. So a lot of MSPs are CSPs as well, where you can, again, you pay monthly, but you pay it to a third-party MSP maybe who manage your billing. Or you could have an enterprise agreement, I suppose, as well. But you need an Azure subscription, which is the crux of it. It doesn't matter how you get it, you just need one. The relevant Microsoft 365 licensing, we touched on this earlier. So as I mentioned, Microsoft 365, E3, E5, A3, A5, or F3. The A3 and A5 are, I believe, educational. So they're for more schools and stuff like that, or universities. So they obviously come with Windows Virtual Desktop as part of a feature for those licenses. Microsoft 365 Business Premium, as I mentioned, that's the sort of the first subscription that comes with it, and that's just below, I suppose, the E3 and E5 as far as cost goes. And then, as I mentioned, you can get the Windows only license, so E3, E5, A3, and A5. And again, the A3 and A5 are for educational purposes. So these are really the base level requirements before you can use a subscription and you need a relevant license. Obviously, there's infrastructure you need to, but I won't call those requirements. Without a subscription, you can't even do a networking Azure. So you need to make sure you have that.
Yeah.
Is that all good, mate? Any questions around that?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Perfect. So the last bit I wanted to touch on was supported operating systems. Like I said, this caught me out once, and this is important because for the multi-session aspect. So when we're provisioning the image, I will show you in Azure the images. I'll show you the operating system and the different licenses. But Windows 10, there's a multi-session OS, and there's Enterprise, which obviously Windows 10 Enterprise you know about.
Yeah.
There's a specific multi-session OS, and you can only get that in Azure. That's not available anywhere else.
Okay.
So again, if you say you wanted to build your image on premises because you have a lot of applications on premises you want to build first and group policies or whatever, then there's a method you can use to export it almost. I'm going to go into more detail within that episode where we create the image, but for Windows 10, there's only two that are supported: multi-session, Windows 10, and Windows 10 Enterprise. And like I said, at the time, I think I did Windows 10 Pro. I didn't think anything of it. Luckily, we had a testing phase, and in the testing phase, only 2 people could log in. So I learned that the hard way, but I've not done it again. So shockingly, Windows 7 Enterprise is supported. So we're not going to deploy that in when we do that. But it is supported again. It's for the only reason I can think of is for application reasons. You might have some really legacy apps that need Windows 7, so it does support that. Again, Windows 7 Enterprise only, but it does support that. And then still the traditional server OS, because you touched on RDS a few times. You've asked a couple of questions because that's your experience in RDS.
Yeah.
They are supported, but it's only from Server 2012 R2 and above, so 2016 and 2019 as well.
Okay.
And that's it, mate. I just wanted to give an overview. It's very, very theory based, I suppose, but again, I want to make sure we cover everything. There's a lot to it, so I want to make sure I went over everything. It's a bit of theory. I promise we'll get practical soon. We will be going into more WVD stuff. The planning phase should be interesting. That's episode 3. So that's next week's episode where we're going to go into planning, because we're talking about network, identity, imaging, all that sort of stuff. So we'll be getting a bit more juicier.
Cool.
Thank you again, Simon, for joining me.
Thank you, Shabazz.
Having a blast collaborating with you, mate. Honestly.
It's been good.
Thank you for everybody who's obviously watching. Please do, leave us a comment, even if it's just to say you're enjoying it. Please leave us a comment. We always enjoy feedback. Give us a like. If you're not subscribed, give us a subscription as well. We will actually be having a bit of a giveaway in the second half of the series, so do keep an eye out for that. We're going to be giving away some hashtag WVD 0 to Hero t-shirts, but I'll explain in a later episode how you can win those. So you will have to do a few things to win those. You don't get naught for free in this world. Thank you everybody for watching, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye.